For the better part of 15 years, NASCAR has been the butt of every TV ratings joke. Yeah, ratings might go down in other leagues, but a lot of times they say, well, at least we're not NASCAR. And while that is partly true, actually it's mostly true, let's be honest, I think that this trend, one, has already kind of stopped, but two, I think is actually gonna flip on its head. Now, that might seem really odd for someone like me to say. It's probably going to seem very biased, and I am coming off the high of a great Martinsville race. So what I'm saying right now seems kind of odd, but I have a few reasons why I think NASCAR will have more viewers in 2022. I want to say right now, this is opinion. I am using some data for it, but a lot of times I'm kind of inferring my own take on that. I'm not saying that it's gonna 100% happen. I'm saying I think it will happen. So let's start off. This was really spurred for me by the fact that there's gonna be more network races next year. Actually, there's gonna be more network races than cable races by 2. But that's big. I think it's big because, one, of where it is, but the fact that, yes, while it is only 2 more races, those races could, at the end of the day, bring in more fans that wouldn't have seen it otherwise at different parts of the year, and maybe bring them to the other networks. Now, Fox Sports 1 is back next year, and Fox Sports 1 really has not been a good thing for NASCAR. In general, the ratings have went down on these races because not many people have them compared to Big Fox. The big key difference next year is the fact that NBC Sports Network is gone. Now, NBC Sports Network was a fine channel in and of itself for racing fans, but the big problem is it wasn't palatable to the general audiences, where USA Network, for instance, the one that's going to be replacing them for NBC Universal's side of the year, is. NBC has made a great move in shifting NASCAR over to USA Network as well as other motorsports. While it's not the greatest thing that we can have, what it does give is millions more potential viewers. Now, I'm not going to say that every USA Network race is going to have as many viewers as an NBC race. And I'm not saying the NBC races are going to set the world on fire. But what I'm saying is that over time, when you incrementally give more and more people the chance to watch, more and more people may jump on board. And that's what I think is going to happen. You have more NBC races, and those non-NBC races are on channels that are viewed more. I mean, hey, maybe someone who's just wanting to turn on Law & Order says, hey, there's a NASCAR race, watches it, got another fan there. Maybe over time this grows up, and I think that's what's going to happen. Now, I talked about the placement of races on NBC and Fox, and while Fox starts the year with a slew of network races, NBC now ends the year with it. In years past, NBC has switched back and forth between the big network and NBC Sports Network, and it's really chopped up the momentum of the playoffs. What NBC has done is put the final 6 races of the season on the big network. And those races in start time are earlier in the day than the 2021 start times. What this will probably mean is that, well, if there's rain, you have more of a chance to get the race in on the big network and capitalize on the viewership. And let's remember that if they push it back a bit, it might go into a bit of football time slot. And we saw what that did for the 2015 Homestead ratings, made it some of the biggest in NASCAR history. So maybe that kind of inflates the number, but it opens you up to having more fans. But the big thing here is the fact that if NBC can get all of these races in on the big networks, it should hypothetically build up the audience towards the end of the season, which has been the trouble spot for NASCAR TV ratings. You see, NASCAR has stabilized in their TV ratings in the past 3-4 years. They had a huge fall off from 2014 to 15 with a new contract. They had another huge fall off after Jeff Gordon retired. And 2018 was rock bottom, the big Dale Jr. effect. But since 2018, ratings generally have stayed flat or have went up slightly. So NASCAR is primed. It's at rock bottom right now, or in general in the last couple years, it's stabilized to a level that it can be comfortable with. Now it can start building that audience. And I think these moves are great moves to do it. Now, the Daytona 500 is key to all this. The thing about NASCAR is that we have our biggest race at the start of the year. The Super Bowl, the World Series, the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals, all are at the end of the year. But with NASCAR, we have all of our eggs in one basket for that one big race to basically set us off into the year. And the last 2 years have been awful. Yes, we had a big audience for the pre-race show when the president showed up in 2020, but rain got rid of that. Then we had the race start later in 2021, and rain stopped that again. So this year, we're starting at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, why is that important? Well, time itself cannot stop when it rains. But here's the deal. Having been to Daytona for about 4 or 5 races in the past 3 years, I can tell you right now that it always rains around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like clockwork. You see everything building up, and it always rains around the same 30-minute window and goes through the afternoon. So when you push that back a little bit when it comes to start time, you have more of a chance to at least get half of the race in. And half of a Daytona 500 on its time slot will do better than the last 2 Daytona 500s combined. And if the Daytona 500 takes off early in the year or gets better ratings, it definitely primes the season up more to be inflated in ratings in general. When you look at NASCAR seasons in the past 15 years that have went up in ratings, or at least at the start, they've had good Daytona 500 ratings. 2008, 2011, 2013, they all have that in common. And those ratings made a good wave through the start of the year that NASCAR could build upon. So I think that's a possibility here. Now, the big X factor I think with this right now is the next-gen car. The next-gen car is going to drive up intrigue, not only with NASCAR fans, but with former NASCAR fans and other motorsports fans. I don't think it's going to be very palatable when it comes to the overall viewing base of sports fans, but I do think that it's going to draw in people who are interested in racing. And hopefully, if it's good, people will stick around. But there's a little bit of method to my madness in thinking about this right here. You see, in 2008, generally the TV ratings went down. But early in the year, they actually went up, which was when the COT was basically brand new for the entirety of the Cup season. But as the season went on, as the racing got more and more disappointing for fans, people fell away. Now, that could all be coincidental. But in 2013, the Gen 6 car came out. The ratings generally went a little bit up. Now, those are 2 instances, so they could be considered a coincidence. But I think with the fact of the matter being that these instances were 5 years apart, when NASCAR was at a different place, both 2007 into 08 and 2012 into 13, shows that maybe the new car has a little bit to do with it. I don't think it's going to do everything for the sport, but let's say the racing in the first 10, 12 races is really good. Everything's going well. We have the Daytona 500 in. People might be intrigued to stick around a little longer. Now, the last one I want to bring up might not be the biggest one for NASCAR fans per se, but maybe for the casual racing viewing audience. The fact that F1 and IndyCar are growing. And let's be real, motorsports fans, they really do overlap a lot. IndyCar is going to be on NBC a lot next year, so I would expect them to grow. And for new audience members they bring in, they're probably going to see a lot of NASCAR advertising. NASCAR is probably going to set some stuff up to be kind of palatable with IndyCar back and forth, and I think that could help there just from being on the same network and from exposing eyes to more racing. F1, on the other hand, is really bringing in a lot of the normie audience. The audience that doesn't know jack squat about racing, but is getting interested in this one aspect. I'm not saying that next year is going to be the return to the glory days of the early 2000s and the late 90s. I'm not saying that at all. What I think is going to happen, though, is that you might see NASCAR go up 5 to 7% in ratings. NASCAR is trying to prime itself for the future right now. A lot of the moves they're making right now are long-term moves. So 2022 is extremely critical in that plan. I think NASCAR is going to put a lot of eggs in the basket of next year. Because if you think about it, not only does that add into a lot of the planning they're doing for at-the-track experiences, but 2022 is going to be crucial for the next TV and broadcasting rights. There's going to be a lot of stuff that NASCAR is going to need to negotiate on, and they need as much leverage as they can get. But now I want to pass this on to you. Do you think NASCAR is going to have more viewers in 2022? Why or why not? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel for more NASCAR content like this throughout the winter, and also thank you to all of my channel members for your continued support. It really means a lot to see. So until next time, have a good one.